talk about planning a Walt Disney World trip with a large group. For any of you who have been following along with our website or our channel for a while, you know that, basically the channel and the website both are just kind of an outpouring of the research that we've done, both Alyssa and I, and, just an outlet for us to store and share the amount of research that we've done, work we've put into planning our own trips, thought processes, the whole thing. So again, if you've been watching for any length of time, you know that we have a big family trip coming up. In fact, the day that we're releasing this video, we are all headed down to Florida to go. So it's finally time for the culmination of months, years, honestly, of planning this trip. So we're really excited about the trip, obviously, but planning a trip for 8 is a little bit different than it is planning a trip for 2 or for 4 or for 6 even, because it's 3 separate family groups that we're all trying to manage and put together and figure out where we're going and what we're doing and how we're staying. So I want to give you a little bit of background about how the trip the initial planning part got started and how we've kind of managed each step of the planning process so that it makes for, hopefully, a smooth trip starting today. All right, so a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic, my family group is my mom, my dad, my sister and I, and then our respective husbands, and then my kids. So a couple of years ago, we were, sitting around, I think, at my mom and dad's, kind of just talking, having Sunday dinner, I think. And Mom mentioned that she wanted to go on another big family trip to Walt Disney. Again, Alyssa and I go fairly often, but Mom and Dad haven't been since 2014. So we started kind of preliminarily putting together this is definitely something we want to do, but when do we want to go? When can we kind of work out all of our schedules so that it works out? And so that process probably started sometime in 2019, maybe even 2018. I'm not even kidding. And then my sister got engaged and, had a wedding. And so that kind of got put on the back burner because we were planning the wedding. And then, COVID happened. And so we've pushed it off and pushed it off and pushed it off. And then finally we were able to sit down and go, okay, this is when we're going. So I want to give you guys kind of the 6-7 tips or kind of steps for us planning this thing, and then again, hopefully for it to go smoothly. The first thing kind of that I've already alluded to is setting a schedule. When you're managing a large group, it's a lot harder for everybody to figure out work schedules, kids' school schedules, and the different types of things that go into when you decide to go to Walt Disney World. Obviously, I don't mind pulling my kids out of school. I've done it a couple of different times. And usually the times that we've gone around Christmas time, we've pulled the kids out for like 2 or 3 days to kind of get there right before most school systems let out for Christmas so that we get a little bit of the lower crowd times. And my mom had mentioned that the last couple of times she had gone, it had been very hot and she didn't want to go during a time that was very hot. And she had even gone like in September, October, and those times again, still in Florida are pretty hot. So that's kind of how we narrowed down December. Again, I didn't mind taking my kids out of school for a couple of days. It's not that hard for me to get time off before Christmas. Same with my sister and brother-in-law, my husband. My dad's retired. At the time we started planning this stuff, my mom was still working, but now she is also retired. So that kind of just all worked out for our respective schedules to figure out that time. So kind of step number 1 is figuring out when are you going to go and how do you determine what works for everybody's schedule. A lot of the time that ends up being in the summer months, just because, with kids and all that, it's just easier to do that during the summer. And if that works for your group, your family, that's great. And just in this particular instance for us, we decided to take a cooler time period. Plus, I just really love Disney Christmas, and I was probably going to come either way. Our second step is trying to figure out where to stay. The last time that my parents went with us, we stayed off-site in a condo, and that was obviously more cost efficient just because honestly, it just doesn't cost as much to stay off-site. We were in a 3-bedroom villa at one of the neighboring condos around Disney. It was about a 15-minute drive, and it was great, except for the fact that we're off-site, and we've just gotten a little spoiled to being on-site. And so I kind of left that up to mom and dad. And they both said that they wanted to stay on-site because I can't remember the last time they stayed on-site. It was probably almost 20 years ago. So mom really wanted to stay on-site. And again, because mom and dad don't go as often, we kind of deferred that decision up to them. However, we did still want to be cost efficient, which is why we decided to rent DVC points from David's. Mom wanted to stay somewhere she had never been before. She's been to Animal Kingdom Lodge, but another big factor for them especially was that they haven't seen Galaxy's Edge. Big Star Wars nerds, that's where Alyssa and I got it. And so we wanted to do either Boardwalk or Beach Club, which are 2 DVC or have DVC villas attached to those main resorts. And so we were able to rent DVC points. We wanted Boardwalk, ended up getting Beach Club, which is just as ideal for me. They're very, very close. I mean, you could walk between the two. And again, as my parents are getting older, where we stayed was a little bit more important for transportation reasons. And staying at Beach Club actually puts us closer to the Skyliner than even Boardwalk. So I think it worked out perfectly, in my opinion. All right, so once you've kind of sat down and you've figured out when you're going, where you're staying, I think it's really important when you're planning for a large group to sit down and have an honest discussion about budget expectations. Everybody knows that when you go to Disney World, it's an expensive trip. And so when you have different family groups or different groups of people going, you really have to take into account that your money and your budget aren't the only ones that matter. If you want to have a good trip with a larger group, you really do have to put into perspective how much each family group or each individual group that's attending is able to spend. And so it just helps to have honest, open lines of communication about money that can determine how many parks you go to. It can determine what dinner reservations you make, any special events that you decide. Now with the added cost of Genie Plus and the Lightning Lane experiences, that adds even another layer of cost to your trips. And so that just really needs to be something that's out there. If family A says, I can only spend this amount, family B has a little bit of a higher budget, that's fine, but family B may need to accommodate a little bit so that family A can, not feel bad or, have to miss out on things or, have to opt out of things or whatever, just because the budgets are a little bit different. So it really helps, in our personal family that, we are able to have those open, honest lines of communication about money. Finances aren't, it's not that they're not a big deal. It's just that we don't have any level of embarrassment or weirdness about that kind of thing. We just go, okay, we can afford this much. Y'all can afford this much. It's more expensive for me and my husband specifically because there's 4 of us and not 2 of us, like with my mom and dad or my sister and her husband. So, we take all of that into consideration and plan accordingly. The 4th step of the planning process that I would suggest that you talk about are the types of tickets or passes that you're going to purchase. We obviously have annual passes, so that's one thing, but my parents don't. Again, they haven't been in 7 years, so of course they don't have annual passes. So we had to kind of walk them through, okay, if this is your budget, this is the kind of ticket that you might want to look into. Not only that, but they, again, are taking into consideration age and physical ability. My mom had knee surgery a couple of years ago, so walking isn't as easy or convenient for her anymore. She's going to want to take some breaks. My dad's going to want to take some breaks. And so we just had some good conversations about this is what the level of expectation is for physical activity. And this is the type of ticket that might be best for you. And again, that could go into the budget conversation too. My parents opted to do single ticket passes. They don't have park hoppers because their line of thinking was, we're gonna go enjoy park in the morning. We're likely gonna take a couple hour break in the afternoon, and then we'll enjoy that park in the evening. They're not planning on maximizing park time, maybe so much as another group might. They're thinking more, we're just gonna enjoy that park that day, and that's all that we need to do. And that's perfectly fine. So the next step of the planning process is to, and it kind of goes along with what we're talking about with these like open lines of communication, is to just have a big group meeting. And that means having a discussion on priorities. What do you want to accomplish? When you're planning for a group of 8, 10, 12, 15, it just gets a little bit more hairy on what you can do. Where, moving as a large group, do you want to move as a large group and everybody do everything together? Are you okay with splitting up into smaller groups amongst the trip during the day? One of the questions that we always ask is, what one thing or two things or three things would make you feel like the trip was accomplished, like you got your money's worth? For my mom, that was doing the candlelight processional. It was riding Rise of the Resistance, seeing Galaxy's Edge. My dad is super excited about doing Smuggler's Run. Mom can't do that because it gives her vertigo. So, we just all sat down and we said, okay, I really want to do this. I really want to do this. I really want to do this. And we set those priorities. And then my next tip that goes along with that is to appoint what we're calling a point person, the one person in the large group who's going to take all of those answers, write them all down, and then kind of come up with the daily plan. And for our group, that was me for the most part. Alyssa has been a big part of the discussion part, but I've been the one making the park pass reservations, making the dining reservations. I'll be the one that's getting up at 7 a.m. and going to make the Lightning Lane reservations for Rise of the Resistance and the virtual queue for Remy's Ratatouille Adventure. And, that's just the position that I'm taking in this big trip. And I think it helps to have one person that does all of those things so that it doesn't get muddled and confused. And again, I'm taking input from family A, from family B, and from family C and saying, okay, if this is what you really want to do, we'll do this on this day. We'll get this dining reservation here on this day. My mom really wanted to do breakfast at Cinderella's Royal Table. So we, got up early, made that reservation. My dad really wanted Ohana. We got that dining reservation. And it, like I said, it was me for the most part. Alyssa, I'm not counting you out, I promise. Alyssa also got up super early with me to try to help me get those dining reservations because they've been so difficult to get in this during this pandemic reopening cycle, as restaurants are still, limiting capacity and everything. It's been more difficult. So she absolutely got up early and helped me do that a few times. And more than anything has kind of been the sounding board for each other on how should we do this, how should we manage this, blah, blah, blah. So all that to say, having a big group meeting and then setting that point person that's kind of the one that's in charge helps. And I don't want to say like in charge, like is making all the decisions, but this is the one that's just compiling everything into one kind of big group plan. And if I'm being honest, that's kind of the point that I'm in right now. We're a week ahead when I'm filming this. And so every day I'm saying, okay, we're going to be at this park on this day. I'm monitoring the wait times throughout the day. Okay, it looks like Smuggler's Run is the least busy at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. So we're going to try to make sure we get into the park at rope drop and head over there first so that we can get that done. What days are we going to purchase Disney Plus, or not Disney Plus, but Genie Plus? Just kind of being the person that compiles all of those decisions into a big group plan. And then my final tip for planning for a large group is to manage your expectations. And we say that a lot, and we've said that a lot about Disney just kind of in general, but it's so important to understand that when you are traveling in a large group, that is just more difficult to manage than it is if it's just you and your husband, or just you and your daughter, or you and your son, or whatever, or you and your mom. It's just more difficult to get everybody from point A to point B to accomplish this, to accomplish that. And there are some things that are going to fall by the wayside. There's some things that you're not going to be able to do. There are some activities that some people want to do that some people don't. And it's all about an open line of communication. And I just kind of find it funny that I'm recording this video and I've been thinking about this video, and literally at work this week, somebody came up to me and said, hey, so this family trip that I was going to be taking with 3 people has turned into a group of 15 people. How do I do this? And I also just kind of found it funny because he said that his wife has one big rule, and that's that you can't be crappy at Disney. And so when we were having this conversation, that was a big part of it, was managing expectations amongst the whole group so that nobody feels like they're having a crappy day or they're left out or they're not getting to do what they want to do. Managing and setting those expectations before you go is just, like I said, I think it's probably the most important tip that I could leave you with. Having a good plan, getting the priorities from everybody. Like for example, my priority is I haven't ridden Soarin' in several trips now. So at some point I need to ride Soarin', even if it's by myself, it's fine, but I need to ride Soarin'. I need to see the Tree of Life at night because I didn't see that beacon of magic when we were there in October, right? Because we only went to Animal Kingdom in the morning, so I didn't get to see it at night. Those are my priorities. And we're setting all of that up for success. And Disney is one of those vacation destinations that's really not a fly by the seat of your pants kind of place. And so when I say that we have been planning and thinking and throwing ideas back and forth for the past 2 years, it's so that next week when we go, or today, if y'all are watching it the day that this releases, today when we go, that everything is set up for success so that it can run smoothly. Now I'll update you guys because obviously after today's trip or after today's video, we're going to be vlogging. So you guys will get to see kind of how it goes, and we'll be completely honest with you. If something's working, if something's not working, then you'll see that. But I fully expect that this trip will go smoothly because of all of the pre-planning that we've put into it. We'll also be giving you guys updates on whether or not we used the free version of Genie Plus, the Lightning Lanes, those extra paid experiences, whether or not we thought that was worth it. Alyssa and I obviously will probably sit down sometime after and kind of do a whole recap video like we have in the past and kind of tell you what worked, what didn't work. All of those good things. So if you have any questions, be sure to leave those in the comments below so that we can answer those as we go through our trip. We'll be there for 6 days. Mom and Dad are flying. Alyssa, Sean, myself, and my family, we're all driving down. So we'll have different experiences there. None of us have flown since the pandemic, so that'll be a new experience as well. We'll find out some things about that from Mom and Dad. And yeah, I think that's it. So just to recap, decide where you're staying, set a budget for everybody, decide on a time to go, have a big group meeting where you can set priorities, assign a point person, and manage your expectations. And those are really the most important things that you can do, in our opinion, to help a large group trip to Walt Disney World run smoothly. All right, guys, we thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we will see y'all soon in our next vlogs.